And then if we can find out who it was, then I can have a chat with them. We want to meet with these people. Okay. Derek.
Don't normally try to make
Is he
staff
here?
names swear words, but you know.
Derek, engineer.
Mr. Mayor, it is 9 a.m. and the live stream has commenced. You may begin your meeting.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Good morning, Council. Good morning, senior leadership team and residents. I see that we do indeed have quorum for this morning's meeting. I will call into order. And this is a regular council meeting on Wednesday, December the 3rd. I now will we will now do the national anthem, and we ask all those that can to please rise. Yeah, thank you. Next on the agenda is the land recognition statement. And this week, Councillor Barnarski, sir, you have the privilege.
The town of Pelham is situated on treaty land, steeped in the rich history of the First Nations such as the Hadiwandurunk, Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island live and work in Niagara. The town of Pelham stands in solidarity with all Indigenous peoples, past and present, acknowledging that our high standard of living is a result of the resources and lasting friendship of Indigenous peoples.
Thank you, Councillor Barnarski. And before we get on to the official town business council, it is my honor as mayor to be able to celebrate the success of the community. And today it is my pleasure to extend special congratulations to an individual who has been recently inducted into the Canadian Motorcycle Hall of Fame, Pelham's Jay Kimber. This past October, Mr. Kimber was one of 10 individuals added to the Canadian Motorcycle Hall of Fame, recognizing him as one of the top athletes who have made significant impacts on the sport. His motocross racing days, which he just stopped last week, I hear. Motocross racing days spanned 14-year career before retiring in 1981, and during that time he won the 125 Ontario Senior Championship in 1972, the National Open Expert Ice Racing Championship in 1975, the Cuba 1978, and the Ontario 250 Expert Motocross Championship in 1979. That's a lot of lists there, Jay. This is a remarkable achievement to be recognized at this level and to have the highlights of your career continue to be showcased to inspire future motocross athletes. I'd like to congratulate Mr. Kimber. You've made Pelham proud. If you please, any remarks you would like to make, and then we're going to do a photo op.
I'm honored to be here, and thank you for the recognition. I apologize to all the local Fenwick people for all the noise I made. Between the dune buggies and the motorcycles and snowmobiles and a couple of fruit trees.
Bylaw says they were familiar with you very well back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I had earplugs back then. But this whole thing's been quite an experience.
Excellent. So a couple of questions. I have a couple, and then we'll see if council has any. So during your career as a motorcyclist, any injuries, prolonged injuries?
The worst thing is concussions.
Okay.
I run my belt too many times, and either through racing or doing dumb things.
Yes, yes.
But I can't ride anymore. Like, I get a headache.
Oh, wow, wow.
But I'm glad. Rubber side down, everything still works. I got no complaints.
So to go to all these races, I take it you must have had a sponsor, because pretty expensive sport, I would think.
Yeah, I was fortunate to get sponsored by CZ Canada, Kawasaki Canada, and Yamaha Canada, and Can-Am.
Wow,
So that really, yeah.
excellent.
If it wasn't for my dad, I wouldn't have been here in the first place.
Okay.
He always gave me fast, reliable bikes, and if I didn't finish, it's usually my fault.
And I take it you probably were an excellent motorcycle mechanic. Probably did your own tuning up and what have you?
Well, besides my father, there's a Bill Fullerton, who's well known in the snowmobile ranks and the motorcycle ranks. And he's become a good friend. We're still friends, and this is 50 years ago.
Excellent, excellent. Before we make a presentation, Councilor, have any questions to ask? Jay, go ahead, Councilor Kerr.
We'll just pass along that the particular orchard trees he referred to happen to be my family farm. And his preliminary years of learning to ride was through our farm and the Alsop farm and a few others nearby, as it was kind of close to where he lived, so it was easy to get out the back of the house and get through the fields by Lovises and the rest.
Yes, and Stassens. But yeah, I hit with a Volkswagen, not my motorcycle.
And not that that ever happened, but in case there was ever a pursuit, obviously the back way through the orchards probably lost anyone who might have been following.
Yeah, we knew our way around pretty well.
Yeah. Jay, if you can come up to the front here, and I'll make a presentation.
Sure, you should.
Please do.
Absolutely, congratulations. Wonderful.
Steve Bowers grew up.
You were neighbors.
So I got a certificate for Jay, and also, I know you're not gonna need one on the bike anymore, but a pair of socks.
Very cool. I wasn't expecting this.
Councilor Hildebrandt, if I can have you step just that way a little bit, and Councilor Eckert that way just a little bit, just so I can catch you through the.
In Shelley's pocket.
Nice if you'd been on a motorcycle.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Great.
Congratulations, Jay. Well done.
I should say.
I knew of you.
I got you. After all these years.
Nice to meet you. Congratulations.
Very good.
Merry Christmas, Jay. Take care.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And we turn to the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings you to the approval of the agenda. I have a motion moved by Councilor Hildebrandt, seconded by Councilor Wink. Be it resolved that the agenda for the December 3rd, 2025 regular meeting of council be adopted as circulated. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments on this agenda? Not seeing any. Call the vote. All those in favor? I see none opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you. That brings you to item 6, disclosure of pecuniary interests.
After viewing the agenda, does any council member have a pecuniary interest to declare? Not seeing any, please note, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our first item this morning is the Pelham Summerfest final report presentation, and we are joined by Ms. Clark, Chair of the Summerfest Working Group.
Excellent. And good morning, Ms. Clark. You've been here before,
Yes, I have.
and you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Council, for allowing me to present the Pelham Summerfest 2025 annual report to you today. First of all, you can see I've worn my Summerfest shirt. In spite of the weather, I thought, well, they'll all be in black. I might as well be in orange to celebrate Summerfest. And it gives me sort of max joy to put this shirt on because I recall all of the wonderful events that we've held as a result of Pelham Summerfest. I should say, just to the Director of Public Works, I also had max joy on the walk or the drive-in this morning when I saw all the kids walking on Pelham Street to school. So thank you for that. So here we are. We've had a great working group this year, and I just want to acknowledge them before I even get into the stats and facts about Pelham Summerfest this year. We have a great group of volunteers working on the working group, Len Doyle, Daniel Klimowitz, and Remo Batista, and they each bring their own special skills to the work that we do. We also have tremendous staff, and, let's be honest, the staff are really doing all the work, the logistics, et cetera, to make Pelham Summerfest the signature event that it is. So we have, of course, the leadership of the one and only Director of Recreation, Culture, and Wellness, Vicki, who's been acknowledged provincially for her efforts and support of the community and its activities, so we appreciate that. And of course, Haley Braun and Lauren Phillips and Karen Blake is here today as well. So that team really puts this together with the support of the working group and plenty of others. And I should say, town staff as a whole participate in Summerfest, whether it's finance or public works or the RCW team, your office, Mr. Mayor, and others who help us throughout the duration of our planning and the actual event. So we're here together because we love to put this event together for our community, for the residents of Pelham. So let me take you through the stats and facts this morning. So I think you know that we do this. We want it to be a community event that features local businesses, local entertainers whenever possible, sponsors, volunteers, and restaurants, and all of this with the notion that we would have 4 free, fun family days together here in Pelham. We had some goals this year. 3 of them to be specific. And the first one, we wanted to be sure that we increased our engagement with the community and everyone involved in Pelham Summerfest, and we wanted to manage the growth. This is not about growing so much as managing the space that we have, the attendance that we have, and making sure everyone feels safe and comfortable. So security, cleanup, and layout were particular interest to us this year. Security, as you know, is an issue for every public event nowadays. So we wanted to take a really close look at what we were doing, and in doing so, we improved our fencing. We once again asked the police, Niagara Regional Police, for paid duty officers. They're unable to provide them, I'm sorry to say, and I'm sure that they wish they could be here in that sense too. However, we were very fortunate because the police did assign their regular Saturday patrol officers to the event, and so they did actually patrol Pelham Summerfest on Saturday, and we really appreciated that. They told us if there was another call, they'd have to leave, but otherwise they would regularly walk around, and we hope that they'll be able to do that again. We also had some cleanup issues last year outside the perimeter of the actual event, and so we knew we had to do better there based on feedback that we had. And sure enough, the Terry Fox volunteers this year really stepped up. They were at Summer Chill collecting cans every week, which they then cashed in and contributed to the Terry Fox Foundation. And they came around and they walked around the perimeter of the event every day after the event to make sure it was in good shape, and it was. We also knew that we were going to have to increase our volunteer effort, and quite frankly, since COVID, volunteerism is a challenge for every organization, not just ours. And so I think we had an adequate effort this year, but really we know there is more to do. And so we're taking a look at how we approach the community for volunteers, and we think we have some ideas that might bring us bring more people forward. I think with volunteerism, people worry that it's a lifelong commitment. Oh, if I volunteer, that's it. I'm done. I'm with them for life. And that's not true. We want people to be with us for a few days or a few days prior to, and just simply enjoy the event and contribute in that way. None of these 4 days of free family fun could be possible without sponsorship. And of course, the town is our presenting sponsor, and we appreciate that. But we know that in order to secure business sponsorship, we have to make sure that they receive value for their money. They're giving us, their hard-earned dollars to help support the event, and we want to make sure that they receive the profile and the recognition that they should, and we've really improved that in the last year. So you've all been there. You know that Thursday night's the opener. We partner with the Fawn Hill Bandshell Committee. They bring in top-notch talent on Thursday night. We had more people than ever this year. It was a banner year. And I must say, Mother Nature really cooperated. We had the nicest weekend in July this year, and it was just wonderful to have 4 beautiful sunny days. So Thursday night, we have the summer market, the farmers market, summer chill, and all sorts of things going on in the park, in addition to the entertainment. Friday night is country night, and every event at Summerfest has its own sort of ambiance and character. Friday night's turning into a character, I would say. A lot of younger folks coming out on Friday night, different crowds than you might see on Thursday, Saturday. And so we're taking advantage of that, offering them things they want to do. We have performers, entertainers, of course, country line dancing lessons and all sorts of things to hold their attention. The vendors, the food vendors and the merchandise vendors are also on site on Friday, and they had a banner year this year. Saturday, the rock and roll crowd comes out, of course. We have our main stage, and our main stage sponsors, Marty's Heating and Air Conditioning and Tucker Homes. They've been our main stage sponsors for 2 years now. We've improved the signage around the main stage, as you can see there. And they're really pleased with the profile that they've been given. You'll see the Lancaster up in the corner. Of course, we all see it from time to time. I'm on my porch waving, wondering if he sees me or not. But this year, Len Doyle approached the pilot and said, if you're coming around on Saturday that day, which he often does, why don't you fly over? And he did. And lots of people were thrilled to see the Lancaster, some for the first time. The Kids Zone. The Kids Zone, lots of entertainment for children of all ages. There are animals, there are inflatables, the firefighters, and they're burning schoolhouses, and on, it's just a perpetual hit with the kids. There's always something to do for the children. The street games that we've added on Pelham Street have been a big winner for us. Sponsors are coming forward individually to sponsor a particular game. Some of them, like Milan Air sponsors a game. His whole family comes out and organizes it and encourages people to play it and so on. So we have a lot of support for the games. The other thing we did with the games, I should say, is we extended the time that they were available. Last year we shut them down at 6 and this year at 9, and it made a lot more people were able to participate, and we know there's just a couple things we want to change next year. Sunday in Peace Park, totally different vibe. Jim Casson and the group is chill all day long in the band shell. They've got the music going. We have entertainers for the children, of course, and the Kids Zone has its inflatables and all sorts of things to do. And we have our car show. There were a few sprinkles of rain first thing in the morning. We thought, uh-oh, but sure enough, as soon as the rain stopped, the cars came in and we had a tremendous show. And people ask me, well, how does this benefit Pelham? Well, you know what? The car show folks are a really interesting group too. And when they travel around to car shows, they take advantage of whatever the local community has. So there are people in the car show who come early so they can eat at Pelham Grill or one of the other restaurants in town. When I went home on Sunday afternoon after the events all closed down, the Corvette Club was at Cured up on Pelham Street, and there were Corvettes everywhere. I've never seen so many Corvettes in a private parking lot like that. So I can point to those 2 specific examples of how our community benefits from bringing people in to participate. So we had 41 vendors, 30 entertainers and bands, 33 sponsors, over 2,000 volunteer hours, and over $5 million in economic impact. And remember, that impact spills over beyond Pelham. It's the people who drive down from Toronto, who bring the equipment, who buy gas, who come and visit here, who go out and eat on other days in addition to whatever they do here at Summerfest. There are lots of spin-offs, and we use the ministry's economic impact calculator, which is statistically valid, I guess, and it provides that data for us. So we surpassed last year's attendance. We had 49,000 entrants this year. Thursday was a big night for sure, Friday, Saturday, and of course Sunday as well. And our Sunday attendance is creeping up every year as we begin to offer more and more activities. You can see that the majority of people from Pelham, who attend are from Pelham, and that's been consistent from day one in 2011. It's intended for our community, and that's who primarily does attend. Other municipalities, of course, Waynfleet, Port Colborne, Welland, folks come in from there as well. And that outside the region number is interesting. That's been pretty consistent too. And you know what that is? That's people like my son who grew up here with his friends. They moved to Toronto for work, and now they come home for Summerfest. It's almost like a homecoming weekend for many people. They come back to their families and friends, and they really just have a great time that weekend, and they spend their money here. I know. So our sponsors, again, the town of Pelham as our presenting sponsor, Marty's Heating and Air Conditioning and Tucker Homes are our main stage sponsors. And then you can see the various other sponsors, sort of like a who's who of Pelham businesses listed here. We try to profile them all and give them the recognition that they deserve. Many of them give us cash. They're cash sponsors. Others contribute in kind in many different ways. So if you went through a misting tent, Marty set those up in 2 spots so people could cool off. The ticket booth that Finance uses for ticket sales, that's through Flexo Build and Spruce Side Construction, and they contribute in so many different ways, and we appreciate it, obviously. So we received $61,000 in monetary sponsorships, over $30,000 in in-kind contributions, and our volunteer time valuation is about $50,000 based on, the federal criteria for volunteer time. So I talked a little bit earlier about marketing and engagement, and we learned a very surprising thing, well, not surprising, but a good to know point this year. When we surveyed residents, or people who attended Pelham Summerfest, we asked how they heard about us. And of course, we don't have newspapers anymore, so that's gone. A lot of social media. But the number that mentioned or indicated the first place they saw information about Summerfest really has grown: the electronic signs in front of Town Hall and the electronic signs at Maid of the Mist. More and more people are using those for basic information or what's happening in town. So clearly they're working. That's the good news, and we want to continue to take advantage of those signs. They're very cost effective, obviously, now that they're in place. We improved our other signage at the gates and so on. We also have more directional activities set up throughout the main area on Pelham Street. The one nut we haven't cracked yet are the free shuttles, and I don't know how you manage on Thursday nights, Karen, but people say, aren't there free shuttles? Or, they just don't seem to have enough information about the shuttles, no matter how much we put out there, or at least we feel like we're putting out a lot of information about the shuttles. So we're going to focus on that this year and see if we can get that message out in a better way, because we do provide the shuttles to alleviate parking issues. There's lots of parking all over at the shuttle pickup spots, and we just have to get that word out, perhaps in some different ways. So, I'm not sure why this isn't showing at the bottom, but the Facebook impressions and other impressions, as you can see there, they're on the rise, but the number that's, not sure, where'd that go? It's not set up properly, that's why. But the last point that you can't see is about the Pelham Summerfest website. The website, as you'll recall, we had some funding last year from the Ontario Council of Arts to upgrade our website in addition to doing some other things. And we did that, and we did it in conjunction with the website update that the town did. And what it's done for us is it's really increased the timeliness of our information. Staff can now go in, update that information as it happens if we need to. And more people are now turning to that website for information on a regular basis. And so that investment was well worth it. So we have lots of volunteers involved, our service clubs, the Kinsmen, the Fonthill Kinsmen, the Fonthill Lions, Rotary Club, Pelham Cares, and of course I mentioned the Terry Fox Foundation, who donated all of the revenue from the cans that they collected to the foundation itself. We had over 120 volunteers, 4 working group members, and over 2,000 hours of volunteering. So our planning is well underway. We're already meeting. We've already reviewed all of the feedback that we've received from vendors, from sponsors, from visitors, from volunteers. We're pulling that all together to take a look at what we need to focus on, keep on doing, obviously, as well as focus on perhaps more intently in the coming year. And really, it comes down to security. We want to make sure that everyone feels safe while they're here. We've got more barriers in place, good fencing and so on, but there's some other things we want to tackle in the coming year. Communication, we want people to know about the shuttles and other things. And so we're just going to keep on working on communication. With security and communication, it's not a one and done. I mean, you've told people and you think, okay, we've told them. No, you must keep telling and telling and telling, and security must be improved every time. You can't really rest on your laurels with these issues. And finally, program enhancements. We think there are a couple of things we might do in the kids zone to help children with special needs and so on, so we're exploring those right now. So we want to see you on the Hill, obviously in July. Bring Me Max Joy, be on the Hill, July 16th through the 19th. And obviously, we want to thank everyone who participated and contributed to Summerfest, our sponsors, our businesses, service clubs, staff, volunteers, council for your support, obviously, and the residents. So here's our group, our working group. And we had a great intern this year, Isabella. She really stepped in when we needed some extra work done. And of course, the other staff who I've already mentioned to you. So with that, that's it for me, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Bea, for a very wholesome report. Before I issue any comments, I'll turn to our Summerfest in resident, Councilor Wink.
Yeah, thank you, Bea, and all the staff and the rest of the committee for all you do. I don't think people really understand how much is involved in this. It's a year-round effort. Things just don't come together in July and after the event it's over. There's a ton of work. I'm a little sad to see that there's only 4 community members on the committee. So if anyone listening or whatever, here's a good opportunity for volunteerism, and it's a very rewarding experience. I know for the years that I've been on the committee, it's 4 days, and at the end of the 4 days, you're whipped, totally whipped. We're just so glad that we can actually go home and actually put our feet up and have a drink and go to bed early because it is a lot. This event has just exploded, from where we were that first year. And I think we had 10,000 that first year. Mm-hmm. And then the next year we had the Friday nights, and that didn't work out well. And now we got over $15,000 or 15,000 people on Friday nights, which is just amazing. So I thank you for everything that you do. Sometimes you feel underappreciated, but the people in the community really appreciate what everyone does for this event. So well done, and we'll look forward to next year.
Thank you, Councilor Wink. I would just like to, a few remarks. I think the reason that this event keeps being such a success year after year after year is because who's ever in charge, you keep renovating and you keep renewing it. I can think of at least 3 other festivals that have being in the region, and I'm talking the region as a whole, that they had 2 or 3 good years, maybe 4 or 5, and then they petered out, and that was the end of it, and they just folded it up. But it seems that the Summerfest just keeps thriving and, like you say, not growing, but becomes more quality of an event. And I think the rethinking of it all the time is what makes this thing viable year after year. So again, congratulations on that, and congratulations too on the work that our staff put in on the behalf of the residents. I know council appreciates the work that our staff contribute to this, but bottom line is volunteerism and our sponsors that help make this event such an award-winning event, that's for sure. Again, thank you and to all the workers. Any other council member have comments? Okay, so B, thank you. Staff, thank you again for all your hard work. And so Vicki, Ms. Van Ravensway, any on behalf of staff, any words from you?
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. You know, you can't say enough. The leadership that B has provided and our volunteers, they're there right now monthly, and then it goes, you know, twice a month, and then it's weekly meeting, and, you know, going out to the public and the businesses and getting more support, and our staff, you know, that's kudos right over there. They keep it going, and it isn't just our department. I have to say that. If it wasn't for Public Works and of course, finance, keeping us on the straight and narrow, and you know, every department, the clerk's department, it takes a village, and that's what it is, and that's why it's successful.
Very good. Thank you. Again, thank you, B. Thank you, staff. There we go. Excellent. I now turn to the clerk. Oh, go ahead.
I'm going to hear about this in the fire department. We can't do it without the fire department. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah.
Get the sirens out.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And I turn to the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have the associated resolution moved by Councilor Wink, seconded by Councilor Niznik. Be it resolved that Council receive the presentation from B. Clark, Chair of the Summerfest Working Group, for information. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments, questions on the presentation? Not seeing any. Call the vote. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings you to the adoption of the council minutes, and we have 2 minutes today. And I have a motion moved by Councilor Bernarski, seconded by Deputy Mayor Eckert. Be it resolved that the following minutes be adopted as printed, circulated, and read. SCO1 2025 Special Council Meeting of November 17th, 2025, and C19 2025 Regular Council Meeting of November 19th, 2025. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any omissions or additions that any council member would like to add or subtract? Not seeing any. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings you to item 9. And if there are any items on the consent agenda that council would like to lift for separate consideration, now would be the time.
Okay. After viewing the consent agenda items, does any council member want to lift an item? And that's, we'll be discussing them all, but if you wanted to lift the item. Okay. And I'm not seeing any. Madam Clerk?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Then that brings you to the consent agenda. And again, if any member of council would like to speak on a topic, now would be the time. The consent agenda includes recommendations from the public meeting, a number of staff reports, and information correspondence. So please address it in the order of your preference, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I've got a couple, but I will give council a chance. Councilor Hildebrand?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have several items. Item 10.4.3, MCC transformer fire. It seems amazing to me that we're a year and 3/4 in and we're only at 91%. Is there a reason for that?
And we will go to our legal.
Through you, Mayor, to
Mr.
Councillor Hildebrand. There are a few reasons. One of them is that the two subscribing insurers have been fighting with each other. So that's the primary reason. The second reason is that there are a few items for which coverage is uncertain. So we have run the numbers to identify all of the expenses that have been incurred, and we've removed all the applicable deductions. So that's our deductible and the waiting period and so on. So that's been confirmed from our end, so we've done that, but we're still waiting to hear back from the insurers on the eligibility of a handful of items. In fact, I was corresponding with the adjuster again today. One item of particular interest is a particular study that was done, and in any event, I am harassing him endlessly. So to the extent that there's delay, it's not on the part of staff, it is on the part of the adjusters and the insurer. But I would say those are the two reasons that there has been such a delay, primarily the fact that the insurers are disagreeing with one another as to who responds to what.
Thank you. Thank you for the up-to-date. I appreciate it. And I know you have been harassing the insurance company. Greatly appreciated. A couple other items, 10.4.5, which is street lighting. I notice we're at 80% of the budget, but I'd like to provide some background on this. Our electricity bill in '23 was $189,792, in '24 it was $101,234, and then this year, as of the end of November, we're $68,107. The number I don't understand is the contract services, which is the maintenance of the street lights. That number in '23 was $51,873, in '24 it was $35,205, and we're already up to $37,046. And if I remember the report right on streetlights, I thought the contract services, which is the maintenance of the lights, were to go down as time progressed. So to the Director of Public Works, can you explain why that number has not followed the electricity number reduction?
To the Director, Mr. Marr.
Thank you, through Mr. Mayor. So there are a number of things that fall under that GL for streetlight maintenance. You're correct with the replacement of the LED lights, the number of light replacements should be down. But that also, the maintenance also includes underground issues that we encounter, replacement of pedestals. I believe it also included a new light at Haste and Brewerton. So there are some costs there. If council wishes, or if you'd like, Councilor, we can provide a more detailed summary of all the maintenance that's been completed on the streetlights, and we can report back to council. So in general, yes, it should be lower, and we need to take a deeper dive into the actual work orders that have been completed to get a summary of what's been done.
Thank you.
We're happy to do that.
That would be appreciated, because I thought that when you get LEDs are guaranteed for so many hours, and the maintenance is supposed to go down. One last question on that area, just a comment in Appendix 3, the MCC electrical usage. When you look at the chart for 24 and 25, what we don't break out is the EV charging rate included in that electricity bill. So that's one of the things on my agenda, to see whether we can break out the electricity used for the chargers, so we get a comparable year by year on our electricity usage at the MCC. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Hildebrand. Any other items that council would like to list? I go to Councilor Wink.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. To the, speaking to 10.4.5 Q3 financial report, to the treasurer, in Appendix 1, it talks about revenues, and can you please expand on what revenues Public Works receives, particularly under that miscellaneous section? I think Public Works isn't normally noted for bringing in revenues, so yeah.
To the treasurer, Ms. Quinlan Murphy.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So what we have budgeted here under the Public Works revenue, we have fees for the driveway culvert. So we have a budget of $20,000 for that. Fees for inspection, that is new this year for $20,000. And just other miscellaneous revenues for $3,000. So the two items are driveway culverts that we replace, and fees for inspection. I don't know if the Director of Public Works wants to add to that.
To the director?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, that's correct. So we do take a number of driveway culvert permits, so for new installations, replacements, and those are revenue sources that come in through the Public Works Department as well. We now undertake engineering reviews in accordance with our CLI ECA operations, and that will also produce fees and generate revenues for those services that are provided.
Okay, thanks very much.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. If I may, I would like to go to Public Works again, 10.4.6. I know this report was done about 2 weeks ago. Any other specific times when that water main reducing valve chamber upgrade is going to happen? Any more news from the region? I take it this is regional work.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that's correct. It's a regional project. It's a regional piece of infrastructure that will be worked on. I was hoping to have a verbal update for council today and when that was going to happen, but from what I'm understanding is that they've tendered the work and it was over budget, so they're looking at alternative funding sources to be able to award the project and move forward. So at this point in time, unfortunately, I don't have a date, but once we know that, we'll report back to council.
And how will we be putting that out to the citizens as such when these interruptions occur?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So we've been in consultation with the region. They are going to be putting together notification to residents. We're also working with our communications department, and they will be working with the region on how we deliver that. It'll be through social media and the news sources. We're also going to be publishing that on our website, and we will be looking at also, we've discussed putting up signage on Canberra Road to let residents know when that work will be happening and what the impacts will be.
Okay, thank you. And this is to do with uneven pressure throughout the lines. Would that be a correct assumption?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the way our water system's set up and the region system, especially in Fawn Hill, with the difference in elevation, you get varying pressures, and the higher the elevation, the more pressure you get. So these valves are basically put in place to reduce the pressure that's being supplied to the homes.
Okay, excellent, thank you. And to the communications, I'm also suggesting Councillor Bernarski and possibly Councillor Kerr could become town criers, perhaps. Councillor Kerr.
Yeah, people can call me a whiner. The one thing that would be useful would be a map that would come with this in terms of the residences, so that you could have, just because the Ward 1's so big, that's the main, but how far, what's the sphere of influence of the water reduction would be really helpful.
To Public Works, please.
Through Mr. Mayor, so that's a good point. We can definitely provide some mapping and a visual on what residents will be affected when, and we can use that as part of the advertising campaign.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Kerr. One other question, if I may. We'll go to 10.6.1 and to the planning director. I saw the report, but could you give us the Coles notes on Bill 60, another directive from across the lake? I wonder if we could do that.
Yep, through you, Mr. Mayor, there is a report. It is 10.4.7 from staff on the agenda that outlines Bill 60. I can update you that when this report was written, the ERO was not closed yet, but it has been closed on November 22nd, and Bill 60 was passed on November 24th. I think most significant for the town of Pelham in terms of Bill 60 is the as-of-right variance that is proposed for both lot coverage and height. I also will note that Bill 17, we had a report on that in July, and right around the same time as Bill 60 was passed, Bill 17 was implemented, and that is the as-of-right 10% variance for setbacks. So that is in place now and implemented now. So those two things are probably the most significant for the town of Pelham. And I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Okay, on this subject, any other councillor members have any planning questions for the director? I thought I also saw in the report something else about development charges, and that's as vague as I can. I can't get much more vague than that. I see the CAO indicates words.
Well, for me, one of the significant changes in development charges is we now have to report to the province every year, kind of like we do with the FIR, but now specifically on our development charges, how much money we have in the bank, when we think it's coming in, how much we've approved and are, haven't received yet, all of that. And by Canada, I think it's Canada Day of each year, if memory serves correct, although I'm sure someone else has that memorized. So it's actually significantly, in fairness, corporate services already does a good job of the accounting, but it has increased the reporting responsibilities, and it's really so that Ontario knows exactly how much you have in the bank at any point in time and how you're doing and how much of your DC money you're actually spending. And I suspect it will have a significant impact on our future grant success or lack thereof, and whether we're even eligible to apply for grants. Our reporting is always going to have to be up to date. So there's a bunch more at the front end, and then that's ongoing with respect to DCs. So that's a pretty significant change. And just to be abundantly clear in very plain English, these changes are designed to take a whole bunch of things that go to Committee of Adjustment out of Committee of Adjustment. So that even that process is unnecessary. And we originally understood everything to mean you had sort of 10% to play with by right. They've now sort of drafted it differently, so it's that. So they describe whatever we said as being 90% of whatever you can do. So just a different way to think about that. But so if we say you have to be 100 meters from the lot line, now 90 is fine. You don't have to ask anyone's permission. You don't have to go to Committee of Adjustment. You can just do that. So, and that applies to a whole bunch of things that historically, that you've all learned over the years, go to Committee of Adjustment, don't. There's a heck of a lot more as of right, and the idea is to make it a bunch faster. So, and unappealable and can't be challenged. That is the significant, these are dramatic changes. They're not minor. They're very, very large. I've been a lawyer for well more than 2 decades now, and I've never seen this level of change to Committee of Adjustment or the process. What I was trained and taught to be true is now dramatically not true. And I think it's extremely likely that there will be far fewer Committee of Adjustment meetings, or they'll be hearing one thing or 2 things and not 5 or 6. We will see a dramatic difference in what Committee of Adjustment hears. Dramatic. I don't think I'm overstating anything there. That's fair.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Mr. Cribbs. To Councillor Wink.
Yes, through you, Mayor, to the CAO. Can you comment on the proposed Water and Wastewater Public Corporation Act on how the services may impact the town as well as residents?
To the CAO?
In the short term, 0% impact. In the medium term, which I would, if I had a crystal ball, and I suppose that's what I'm being asked to do, in 2 to 3 years, I think this makes it highly realistic that Niagara could see a municipal water corporation that handles all water matters from coast to coast to coast, if that's how we want to describe it, throughout the region. So in the immediate change the legislation. It is specifically targeting Peel, what is now still Peel Region, and the only immediate changes are within there. But it's very clearly designed and being described candidly as a sort of as a test case, and the regulations are such that the minister can do it in like they don't have to go back to the legislature, and they'll be able to roll this out to the rest of Ontario. And so I think all of us who work either in public sector finance or engineering or planning or administration are going to watch Peel Region for the next year and a half in there to see how that goes for them, and then realistically think that this may well be importance for the future for much of the rest of Ontario.
So then, do you see in the future that for the Niagara region, all municipalities will have their water, wastewater rates harmonized? So right now, we're at the bottom of the totem pole. And if it gets harmonized, that would mean that our water and wastewater rates are going to go up significantly.
So it could mean that, but it doesn't have to mean that. What I do think is highly, highly likely is single service providers. If you're of a certain age or vintage, you'll remember PUC's, Public Utility Commissions. Those were the norm certainly when I was a child, he says with a grin.
You can remember that far back?
I was a nerdy child. But it was very common in Ontario to offer those services through a company, a business, owned by the local or multiple local municipalities. And everything old is new again. And I think there's a vision to, I would already describe these services as very technical and very non-political. I've never worked in a municipality or seen a council even vaguely try to politicize water or wastewater, like at all, ever. But the notion is that they'd be professionally run by corporations and not, and that they would be charged with putting services where there's going to be houses and sort of outside of this process, what we're used to now for the last, call it 4 decades. When you do that, ultimately we have, the region is this right now the single provider of, it either deals with the waste at the tail end or it cleans the water at the front end, as the case may be. And in fact, we pay different rates than Port Colborne does, for if that's, in a community our size. So in fact, you can end up with different rates with a single provider already, and that need not necessarily change. They're in fact, I mean, there are a bunch of variables in the future, so that's too much speculation. But it is true that if you had one provider, you could have one rate for all, which would be not in the best interest of the residents of Pelham, clearly. It is also true that you could have one provider and different rates because of distance or volume or demand or like any number of things. And at least at the moment, because there's 2 parties to the process, there's a local municipality and in our case, the upper tier region. Some local municipalities invest more and have better systems, and others invest less and lose more water to seepage or waste to repair, as the case may be. So we don't all have equally clean hands in this. And there's no reason, assuming it's governed by a conservative business philosophy, you'd actually want to keep a capacity for variable rates for communities that did or didn't invest more. So I don't know that you can give a clear answer on that. Either's possible, but it's certainly the test case to go to regional or area-based water systems that are, although indirectly accountable to local governments, are no longer part of local governments, and that is right there in the statute.
Councillor?
Okay, thank you very much for that explanation.
Thank you. Councillor Kerr?
Kind of as a follow-up to this reminds me back when I was an employee of the provincial government, and they found a way to, quote, reduce the number of provincial employees by creating spin-offs. So suddenly they can say, let's create this new entity. It's private. People that had been working in this get shifted over to it. Suddenly your numbers of employees who are government employees drops, but they don't vanish. The people still exist and they still stay in place, but it's moved over to a third party. A classic one with this was, from my own personal experience, was the Ontario Minister of Agriculture and Food, which the University of Guelph, Ridgetown College and everything, they were all in there, and then suddenly they flipped everything and gave all the CAT colleges to the University of Guelph, took them off the Ontario government payroll and said, look, we reduce your number of employees by this much, shoveled them over, handed money to the other organization to keep them going. And then, unfortunately, when cuts came, it was the University of Guelph that did the cuts. It wasn't the province who did the cuts. So it kind of was a thin edge of, it's a minor shell game that gets played. And I think everyone, regardless, we're going to pay for what we get and have to, it's just a matter of the sequence of who we have to deal with and who's ultimately responsible. We're going to be, I anticipate in the future, I think the Peel situation was brought about because they're getting rid of Peel. And they were stuck with a regional entity, and now they're going back to the municipalities and saying, well, the municipalities will create the corporation, which takes over something that was done before. So it's kind of an interesting situation. Councillor Hildebrand and I were listening to other areas yesterday and some things, and they were talking about similar situations that were being undertaken and thought about. But the PUC approach that you mentioned, that sounds very much like it's going back to that.
Thank you, Councillor Kerr. Any further comments or questions? And we'll open it up to any agenda item, obviously. Councillor Wink.
Thank you, Mayor. It was nice to see the 10.6.2 MPI end of year update stating that there's a $637,500 dividend to Penn West Power, Inc. That all sounds well and good, but how much of that dividend will flow to the town of Pelham?
Do we know that from one of our representatives? I'll go to Councillor Hildebrand.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's a percentage based on the percentage ownership that we have of the corporation.
Are we at 17%? Is that what we are?
It's higher.
17% is what we own.
Yeah, of Penn West.
Of Penn West.
I don't know.
That's 17% of Penn West.
That's what we own.
Yeah.
That's what we own.
Okay.
So MPI gives $637,000 to Penn West,
Right.
but then Penn West has all sorts of other overhead that our 17% is going to be
No,
Not really, not very much.
it's a direct flow through.
Yeah.
a direct flow through. So we can safely say that we're going to get 17% at $637,000.
Is that what you would?
On December the 11th, the Penn West Board will determine the number.
Oh.
But basically, yes, you will be getting a check for over $100,000.
And how does that compare to previous years?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think it's about 93,000, 95,000 this year, so it's comparable.
Yeah.
So if you do 17% of that number, it's 107,000, so it's about 10,000
So
more.
it's going up a bit.
Yep.
Not a lot.
It was 93.
Yeah.
And now it's going to be over 100.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay, and it would be nice if our representatives could round that out to 20%.
Absolutely. I'd like to do that. The struggle we have, we fight with two other municipalities
Yes.
that think we're getting too much.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for that, Councilor Wink, and thank for the answers from our representatives. Any other questions or comments on the agenda items? Not seeing any. I'll turn to the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a motion moved by Councillor Kerr, seconded by Councillor Niznik. Be it resolved that the consent agenda items as listed on the December 3rd, 2025 council agenda be received and the recommendations contained therein be approved. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? See none opposed, motion carries.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings you to staff reports requiring action. And our first item is 12.2.1, proposed replacement of the delegation of authority bylaw. And I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Eckert, seconded by Councillor Bernarski. Be resolved that council receive report 2025-0258 for information, and that council approve the bylaw in principle as appended to the report, and that council direct staff to prepare and present the bylaw for consideration at the next regular meeting of council. To Mr.
Okay, I will turn to Mr. Cribbs perhaps for just a little more clarity or why this evolved, perhaps.
Well, I can speak generally, and then I think Ms. Sturton can take questions specifically if you have any. As a starting point, neither a strong mayor nor any member of this council has directed my office or any senior leader to specifically take more power, so we haven't really changed who does what. I always try to use the analogy of the swim lanes. There's council's lane, there's a shared lane, and there's an administrative lane, and this isn't a particular attempt to change those lanes and where they're delineated. That being said, this is as much structural or format as it is. There are little bits of substance. It's not zero in there. There are some changes. But Ms. Sturton, I think, has created a bylaw with better flow. And frankly, when you look through, it's now sort of organized by area function. I think it's just a lot easier to find, oh, the CAO. Oh, there's what Public Works can do. Like, I think that's a much easier way to go through, because you at least are starting with some sort of concept or some sort of area of service. So I think it's a much better organized document. Beyond that, there have been some modest changes. I can point to Public Works, and you recall about a year and a half ago, Council, we came to you and said, can we please have another position in Public Works to deal with the linear infrastructure? This has been downloaded to us from Ontario. You greenlit that. That's actually the revenue line from earlier today in Public Works, so that's trying to offset some of the employment costs. And there's some powers that came with that we have no choice but to discharge in engineering, and so that's referenced there, for instance. So it is I would describe it as housekeeping, if I'm allowed to use that word, in this capacity. It's good practice to do. We kind of look at it about once every year and a half, something like that, and I like to do it at end of year. Frankly, that's just my approach. And Ms. Sturton sort of canvassed all of the leaders for changes in their areas, or have we missed anything, stuff we've been doing, and we just ever neglected to put it in there in the first place, because every now and then that happens. You don't see the obvious thing in front of your face, kind of deal. That's my general commentary. If you have specific questions, Ms. Sturton is better placed to answer them than am I. But there are no power grabs whatsoever. There are a couple reflections of statutory change, and then I think there's just a better bylaw that's going to be, it's easier for people who aren't us to read. And then as far as us going, I think it'd be easier for future amendments. We won't have to do any sort of structural rejig. We'll just change the schedules at the back, frankly. It's my commentary.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go to Ms. Sturton. Any further comments added to that, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. So I agree with what the CAO has said. What we've done, when the administration of authority bylaw that we currently have was first drafted, you didn't have a town solicitor until actually when the bylaw was passed. And so it was, since then, what we've done is added schedules and changed the schedules to reflect particular positions. But it makes sense organizationally, from my perspective, to organize them by department. So the approach to the bylaw has been to delegate authority to various departments and to permit directors and their designates to exercise those powers. So that makes it cleaner from an organizational perspective. And also, as noted, some of the legislation that we're dealing with currently has changed. So for instance, the Cemeteries Act was referenced in our current bylaw. It's now the Funeral, Burial, and Cremation Services Act. And we do have our new cemeteries bylaw that's been approved as well. So bringing that up to date. The Liquor License Act is now the Liquor License and Control Act. So just some sort of, as the CAO said, housekeeping items to bring things into compliance with current language, current terminology. And there are a handful of changes that did not appear in any format in the prior bylaw. For instance, every bylaw we pass authorizes the clerk to make minor modifications. So we've added that as a blanket power in the delegation of authority bylaw. It doesn't mean we won't continue to put it in each individual bylaw, but it just provides sort of one-stop shopping to identify what the powers of the clerk might be in respect of every bylaw. And another sort of blanket change that's been added to each schedule is to authorize directors to deal with things that have to do with the, quote, usual operations of the department. And we've defined that term of usual operations just to facilitate agreements that are necessary for day-to-day workings to permit directors to execute them without having to come to council every time. So there have been no significant substantive changes in terms of the powers being delegated, and I'm happy to answer any further questions.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that explanation. Any further questions on this item in the agenda? Not seeing any, I will call the vote. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, motion carries. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings you to item 12.2.2, and that is the flag policy updates. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Kerr, seconded by Councillor Hildebrand. Be it resolved that Council receive report 2025-0254 for information, and that Council approve the amended flag policy S20314 as attached as Appendix A. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Excellent, thank you. Any council comments or questions on this updated flag policy? I'll turn to Councilor Nesnick.
Yeah, excuse me, good morning. So just looking at point 9.4 with regards to, you've added in or former employee and then or former committee or board member. So just wondering how that will be tracked and, you know, if that's possible to be tracked, because we do have quite a few committees and people leave and then so like what designates them as a committee for the length of time that do they have to be on for the whole term? I just wonder if that will get really muddy for clerks to manage.
And I will turn to the CAO.
Well, there are no promises and guarantees in life. Frankly, there are former staff members who retire and go about their lives and move to other parts of the country or do their own thing, and I'm sure have passed away, and we're none the wiser. But in the last year, we've had two people who made major contributions to this corporation pass away, and there were people crying in town offices. And in fact, our rules, we had to go to the CAO authority. The rules didn't say, like, you get the flag lowered, and there were people upset in this building and at the fire station, and like people crying. So we clearly had that wrong. That should just be a sort of like an as of right, and it shouldn't require access to my office or an understanding in my office even, like when it's someone else. So the lived experience of the last year taught us that that's an oversight. I don't think I'm sure there was no ill will or intent with that, but we've lived through that recently, and so we just wanted to correct that so that it at least can happen. We're not going to track per se, we don't, but it's a relatively small community where people know and care about each other, and we can't have that Summerfest presentation and not understand that there's an amazing spirit and connectedness here in Pelham, and so it frequently does become known. And most of our former staff remain friends. Some of them become volunteers, et cetera, like the ties continue to bind. So most of the time, I think we will become aware, and we'd like to have the capacity to react to that. And but to answer your question directly, Councillor Niznik, I'm sure there are people we will miss. It's not meant to be a guarantee. It is meant to be an opportunity and to have the capacity to lower the flag when someone who spent decades here contributing does pass away, which, unfortunately is going to happen.
Councillor?
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Yeah, that was just my only concern, is that you're kind of, it might be difficult to track. But if folks let us know, then certainly we can proceed with that. Yeah, I have no objection to it at all.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other questions or comments? Not seeing any. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? See none opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our next item is 12.2.3, 2026 user fees and charges, and I have a motion put forth by Councillor Wink, seconded by Councillor Bernarski. Be it resolved that Council receive report 2025-0238 for information, and that Council in principle approve the 2026 user fees and charges effective January 1st, 2026, and that Council draft staff to prepare and present the bylaw for consideration at the next regular meeting of Council. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Great, thank you. And any comments or questions? And I'll go to Deputy Mayor Eckert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just in relation to the increased, first of all, this report is excellent, the way they've laid it out with the yellow highlights so we can look, see where the difference is. Excellent report, easy to read. So clearly we looked at increasing some fees and others we left alone. And the ones that we did increase, a couple of questions, some of the increases are kind of funny amounts. So was it a percentage increase that was used on what was there?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, each department is responsible to look at their fees and do comparative analysis with other municipalities, and in some cases it's a 2% increase. In other cases, it's rounding up to the next closest number, and then in some cases there are no increases because if you compare it to other municipalities, our number could actually be higher. So we just feel that the amount is okay. So it varies.
Okay, so it was almost a line by line, department by department.
Yes,
Okay.
definitely line by line. We always go through line by line.
Okay, thank you. And the other thing was, I know last year, I think it was, when we had a healthy discussion here about increasing certain fees in the cemetery for non-resident burials and things like that. And I see those are in there and clearly marked. One of the things, however, though, was, I don't know why it hit me, but under burial permits, there was no increase for, there's increases for non-resident people to get services from the town, but one of the ones that was not was the burial permit for out of town and burial permit, death registration, burial permit, death registration after hours. Those remain the same. There's no distinction between resident and non-resident, where to actually purchase and the plot and bury someone, there is an increase for non-resident. So was that looked at, and why did we just leave it as its own?
Okay, and Director of Public Works, Mr. Moore, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, don't have a direct answer to your question right now, but that's something that I can definitely take back. Sorry.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is actually a fee under my department, and that is purely for the issuance of the permit to allow the body to be buried. It has nothing to do with the actual act of burying. It's just purely the paperwork that identifies the name of the individual.
Okay.
There is no changes. The process is quite simple. It is.
Okay.
It's not time consuming, and we are an average with the rest of the municipalities in the region. So.
That's what I wanted to hear. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor Eckert. I'll go to Councillor Kerr.
Yeah, it's picky. I hate doing that. Everything else increased except under marriage licenses. There was the room rental went from $27 down to $24.58, but for everything else in that column, everything went up. I kind of found that funny.
Any explanation? I'll go to our caller.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would just defer to the director of RCW. That is an MCC fee that is mixed into our schedule because it is related to weddings.
Okay. Ms. Van Ravensway, any comments?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. It should be the same price. A lot of times I don't look at the clerk's department section. So it should be the same price of whatever facility they're using. It would be reflected in RCW rates. So if it is different, we will make sure we correct that.
Yeah, it was just,
Yeah, sorry.
all of the others in the 2026 column went up by 2%. But the rental fee for functions area, special functions area per hour dropped by 5%. It just seemed odd.
So procedurally, I think it'd be best if some member of council wanted to bring a motion to adjust that. We won't be able to, like, it's live before you, and you can choose to make that a different number, to go 2% up. That could be a motion that I'm sure Madam Clerk would receive well.
Correct. I would just like to confirm with the director that that wasn't just a copy paste error. Is it correct in your schedule, Vicki? Because I believe it is duplicated. I'm not sure if that's an administrative.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm just trying to find it in our section. I think it was 24. It almost looks like the one has the tax included and the other one doesn't, but let me just double, and that's a lot of times that is in my world. Some things you charge tax, some things you don't. So let me just double check on it, but we'll make sure it's corrected.
Yeah, it's the tax difference, so we can just leave it back at $27, like just what we had last year.
Yeah, it's just I found that because the rental fee, every other one in that column went up by 2%. And I was surprised. So in theory, you would think it would go up by 2%.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So perhaps that could just be a friendly amendment to amend the number to be tax inclusive,
Okay.
just to be consistent.
Thank you. So we don't need a motion as a,
No, I can accept that as a friendly amendment if council is
okay.
That's fine. It was just
to that.
an
Yep.
anomaly that I saw.
correct.
Yep, all right. Thank you, Councillor Kerr. Any other comments? Councillor Hildebrand.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask my fellow councilors to have a fulsome discussion with regards to the philosophy for fees and charges use. My concern is that maintaining current fees or no fee increases or below-cost increases increases the budget pressure for tax levy and may require service reductions in the future or huge increases. And the fees should reflect the direct operating costs, indirect costs, inflationary pressures, regulatory adjustments, and it should avoid over-subsidizing users for fees they use. I'm going to be talking about some very specific areas because I've been involved with some residents on these areas. Don't want to pick on the clerk's department and RCW, but I am going to pick on them because that's where I've been involved in certain areas. And then I'd like my fellow councilors to comment on. The first area I'd like to comment on was I was involved with marriage licenses. Both these departments produce exceptional work. The work that they do is amazing in comparison to what I've seen from other municipalities. On the marriage licenses, I've seen two different licenses, one from another community. They just fill it in by hand. They charge significantly more, and ours was nicely typed up. We charge $130, and they charged $138. But when I did a quick look, I noticed the average fee for marriage license are between $130 and $160. That was my view on that. The other big area that I looked at, because I got involved with a resident from another municipality, was on an FOI. He came to me with his FOI. He was not happy. Number one, when he went to them, basically, I'll describe what it was. It was a farm property that was sold. A lot, small farm properties sold. A lot was taken off of it. House was upgraded. They put on what they call a farmhouse building in addition, and put a couple of horses there and called it a farm. He was very upset, but where he got upset was when he went in, the staff evaluated the request. Obviously, you pay the $5. Everybody pays the $5. And then they said, oh, this is complex. This isn't going to be done in 30 days. It's going to be done in 60 days. And then I saw he was charged significantly more. Our base charge is $5 when you come in, $15 for every 5 minutes. When I looked at another city municipality, they have two different classifications, as well as this municipality where this gentleman had went in. And when I talked to the councilors there, they call it basic and complex. So basic is your $15 an hour every 15 minutes, and complex was 30 or 20. I can't remember what the exact number was. I've got it here anyway, but it was almost, no, it was $7.50 every 15 minutes is ours, and theirs was, if it became complex, it became twice that. It became $15 every 15 minutes. Not only that, if the fee extended beyond the $25 range, then the clerk immediately said to the individual, up to $25, it was basically no questions asked, you get what you want. Once it gets beyond there, then the clerk said, well, the fee is going to be this. They gave them an estimate. If once it gets to over $100, they actually have to pay 50% of that charge going forward. So that's the way that municipality works. So that was a little different. So that's my, on the FOI talk on fees. Then I want to talk about RCAWs. There's several areas in the RCAW chart where you marked them yellow and the fee didn't go up or change, which surprised me. But the one area that I easily looked at was soccer lighting. Soccer lighting is $32 an hour. It went up 2%, which was 68 cents, I think, which I thought was amazing. When you look at the increase in hydro and you look at the two people that we send out to turn on and off the lights, I think it was a rather low fee. And I think we provide such exceptional service, the minimal increases we have, which look like the cost of living or one of those adjustments, they don't seem significant. So that's just a general discussion I'd like to have with the fellow councilors to see what they think about those issues. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Hildebrand. Any councilor like to comment on Councilor Hildebrand's subject? Councilor Kerr.
Yes, I understand where Councillor Hildebrand is coming from, because functionally what we're looking at is not so much material costs as labor costs. And we all know that through agreement and pay raises and benefits and everything else, the percentage increase is often more than what we might see as the cost of living calculated by the Canadian government. And so essentially what happens is I see over time, we start to have highly skilled people who are paid well, but the recovery of it doesn't seem to match. In other words, we're always losing ground over time. So I think it might be more prudent for our review of these is, rather than looking at a COLA, look at the labor inputs into some of the components of these things, and maybe their increases would be more reflective of that if it's a static cost. And as was mentioned, electricity or gas or everything else is, they build in all kinds of other things in the Canada change. I went through this at the airport when we were trying to do it, and they were going back to the Canadian numbers, and they wasn't anywhere close to reflecting what the real increase in costs were. So I can see it, and I understand the premise behind it, and that may be something that we need to address. As I said, I appreciate the staff, I appreciate everything they do, but if we are losing every year as we move forward, then it just erodes. It becomes a cost somewhere else inside our system that we have to make up. And in fact, when it's a service thing that's going out, if it's a little more reflective annually of whatever our increased costs are, we've got a base and we just kind of work with that. That might be a more appropriate way of dealing with it, rather than saying, let's just do a flat line. But that's just a suggestion.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Kerr. CEO, let's go to staff first. Go ahead. Ms. Van Meeben's fine.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of things, and I know that the soccer lights are always a passionate topic. So we are changing a couple of things. We're looking at, we should be able to actually control the lights electronically after the work is done and in Centennial Park. So physically someone doesn't have, okay, so let's go back to square one. We do have Park Patrol each night. And they visit each of the park and also by law enforcement. It's a dual thing that they ride together. It's not only for turning on lights, shutting off lights, because right now you have to do that manually if the lights don't go on. It's also looking to see who's on the diamonds. You know, we do have a schedule and they're booked, but sometimes teams show up and they're not scheduled. So therefore, we're able to bill them if John Doe all of a sudden decides to have a ball game out there, and if we don't have staff going out and checking. They're also checking on the washrooms, cleaning the washrooms, because we need to clean the washrooms daily. So it isn't that staff are just going out there to turn on lights. There's other duties that they're doing as well. And those people would still be going out and doing that because they need to be done prior to the next day. So just so you understand.
Excellent. And that brings up my point even more, that I like the fact that we are leaving the increases in staff's hands because they know the whole story. And the last thing I want to see is us at the top of our services. People pay taxes in this town, and every taxpayer in the Niagara region, every taxpayer in Canada pays a significant tax, property tax, tax. So I just don't want to see residents, every time we go and we don't necessarily need to get all of our money back on a simple transaction. Because as we just found out, that transaction may very well be coupled to a situation that staff are going to do anyway. And so myself, I'm happy to leave these where they are. Staff goes line by line, which I appreciate, and that we have the finance department involved in it, and they go line by line. And myself, I'm happy with the increases that I have seen here. They're minuscule, and yeah, that's where I am on this subject anyway. The CAO also wanted to have a few words, and then we'll go to Councilor Nesnick.
Sorry. I saw our treasurer's hand up also, and she's also well informed on this topic.
Let's go to the treasurer.
If you're talking directly with Vicky, you can go after that. Sorry.
Back to the CAO.
Well, what I'd like to suggest, possibly, understand that this is you get this report in December every year because the Municipal Act requires us to do this. I would agree with our deputy mayor. One of the best debates I think I've ever seen a municipal council have, and just have the privilege of saying it was you, was last year or about a year ago around cemeteries, and you know, and a really good policy debate, and going to fees, right? And how should that be shared, and what was equitable and just, and had a really good, but you had that debate in the context of also a very fulsome report that kind of laid out some of the things you'd probably want to consider as you had that debate. We're not really set up for that today. There is a philosophical divide, and this is one of those things upon which reasonable people can agree to disagree. Like, how much should a user pay versus go to the general levy is really what you're talking about. Councillor Hildebrand's point writ large is that fees aren't high. He would support higher fees yet again. So, and I haven't heard anyone object to the ones suggested. So I would submit unto you, it's probably a good way forward today, is endorsing this because we have our statutory need, which is kind of why it's in front of you anyway. I would be pleased to promise you a report so that you could have an equally good, you're heading into year 4 of your 4-year cycle. You're all very well vetted on the issues, and we could provide you a report with a couple of, that looks at rec and certainly clerk fees, and gives you some of the reasons why you might or might not want to adjust them. And you're very capable of having an excellent debate or dialogue around what those ought to be. And it's a much fairer, it's a good ask of a council in year 4 of a 4-year cycle, and it's not a good ask of a council in year 1 of a 4-year cycle, because you really need a bunch of time and experience to do this piece well. And so you'd be really well served, and the community, more importantly, the community would be well served by you having such a discussion very late Q1, early Q2, kind of very late winter, very early spring type of thing. And then that would certainly let us know what we were going to do for the following or year. Admittedly, there'll be an election in between those, but that helps us prepare that, because no matter what, we still have to put that document in front of a brand new council in December, and they're going to be sworn in, I don't remember, very late November. So they're going to have almost no time, and they're going to have to pass it right away. And who knows who'll be on that council. So this would at least allow a fulsome public debate on that topic in the year in which we really still have no choice but to put something in front of people in December. And you've already demonstrated a good capacity on this topic substantively. So if that would be helpful, and that gives us 3 or 4 months for anyone to flag specific either line items you want us to, or just general topics you'd like to sort of have in your discussion. We'll make sure those are somehow addressed in a report that's written by a bunch of us and would set you up for a very good discussion 3-4 months from now, like that, if that would so please everyone. I think that'd be a great way forward.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. CAO. I will go to the Director of Finance, Ms. Quinlan Murphy.
Yeah. So through you, Mr. Mayor, just going back to that rental fee in the marriage, the 2448, I did cross-reference that to the Rec 1 to 2448. So I think the $27 was wrong last year. So they do need to match. So I would like to keep it at 2448 to match the increase of 2% in the Rec department, so that those two lines match. I just wanted that clarification.
Okay, thank you for that. Councilor Nez, thank you. Next.
Yes, thank you. It's okay. I'll let CAO Cribbs steal a little of my thunder and my suggestions. So I do, I do agree with him that I think as written, I know a lot of work goes into these, that certainly comfortable proceeding with it how it is written now. However, I don't think 2% increase across the board is an advisable way to go. I do think council needs a more in-depth understanding of how the fees are established, how they're decided upon, and the factors that go into considering what the percentage increase becomes. When I look through the chart, there's several areas that I definitely think should be much higher than they are right now in terms of user fees, most specifically the adult usage. Just as the one example, $5.31 to do a drop-in activity. That's I do that fitness class, it's an hour, and I only pay $5 something for it. And to me, that's like the bargain of the year. So of course I'm going to do it, and we get a great turnout, but I'd be willing to pay $10 to do that twice a week, because it's a great activity, and I'm an adult and I want that fitness and I can afford that fitness. And so I don't think the 2% increase this year is enough in some of those areas. But because we have that already laid out, terrific, but I definitely do think we as a council should have an in-depth conversation where we want to go with these user fees and charges in the early next year. Thank you.
Thank you, and I look forward to the discussion, and I look forward to representing the people that perhaps going from $5 to $10 encourages them to stay home and do nothing. But we'll have that discussion. Deputy Mayor Eckert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just to, I'd be in favor of the CAO's suggestion of going ahead with this today. I know we review this every year. We get a report, and if we get this in-depth discussion and a more in-depth report, as Councillor Niznik said, of how they come about these. My biggest fear is, we're looking at a clerk's department that produces outstanding work. And I don't want that work to come down, the quality of the work to come down to reflect what we're charging for it to other municipalities. I want it to stay the best, which it clearly, I think, is. And then the other area that we're always looking at is recreation and wellness. And I think we all sit around the council and realize that recreation and wellness is never even a break-even situation. There's services that the town provides. And lastly, in the discussion that we have, my biggest fear with managing increases like this is it becomes what I've always described and others have described as kind of a hidden tax. So we keep our tax levy low, but then we increase every fee that there is to make up that money. So we got to be careful when we get into that, that we keep that. I agree with Councillor Hildebrand's suggestion. There are some fees that I think, and we've done that in the last couple of years where we've raised revenue. And of course, hasn't quite kept up with the cost increase, but you know, that's one of the things with especially recreation that we eat. You know, we just put up with. So I'm looking forward to the discussion next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go back to Councillor Hildebrand. You brought all this on.
I did.
And it's been a good discussion.
I'm looking for next year's discussion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate all the hard work that goes into this, and I know it's complex. I know it isn't easy, and I know there's two sides to every story. So I appreciate staff and all the hard work you put in to come up with these numbers. Thank you.
Excellent. I'll go around one more time. Councillor Bernarski.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I agree with everything that's been said so far. I kind of sit on both sides of the fence right now, so I do appreciate the CAO's comments of a more fulsome discussion, having the opportunity to look at it line by line. I know that there are some things where we probably could increase, but like you, Mr. Mayor, I think our residents pay the taxes, and so just upping other fees, I'm not sure that I necessarily agree, but I do look forward to further discussion on that.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments? Councillor Kerr.
Yeah, I think it's important that all of us recognize these are not fees strictly restricted to the town of Pelham residents. If I'm from the city of Welland, I can come in and get these rates for rentals and things. So there becomes the double-edged sword of we have a facility, it's being utilized by non-residents. Sometimes that's where, if we're losing ground, then the entire municipality is paying for that as well. It's not an easy thing. I think it's great to have the discussion and go forward, and I think, you know, it's a worthwhile effort. The idea is not to make more work, not make it more complicated, but there probably are some formulas that can be worked into the systems to say allocation of labor, allocation of this, allocation of that, and then it makes a lot more sense for increases in the future.
Yep. Thank you for those comments, Councillor Kerr. Not seeing any other comments. So we call the vote.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And yes, staff will take that as direction to come back with a report by Q2 of 2026.
Excellent. All right. Thank you.
So you have the motion on the floor to bring the bylaw back to the next meeting.
Okay. Any other comments on this motion? Not seeing any. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And I see none opposed. Motion carries. To the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That brings us to item 17, resolution to move in camera. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Niznik, seconded by Councillor Kerr, that council resolve into closed session to consider the following matter: closed session, CAO performance review, personal matters about an identifiable individual per section 239(2)B of the Municipal Act, and labor relations or employee negotiations as per section 239(2)D. To you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes. All those in favor? And see none opposed. We'll now go in camera, and as we do, we will take a 5-minute break. Thank you.